Hello and welcome to Leagues Ahead, the vodcast for the Arena Gauntlet League that focuses on, Leagues Ahead, tournaments that are just about to happen. I'm your host, Christopher York, the founder of the AGL and the host of Leagues Ahead. Today we're going to talk about the new tournament, Edge of Eternities, and with me is League Committee stalwart Jack H. Welcome, Jack.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to be here. Wow, it's exciting. I don't know what to say. There's a lot to talk about. This might be one of the freshest, wildest designs that we've had. Even this year's been a sort of bumper crop of good tournament designs, but this one is enough to make me want to play even in the summer heat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. This is my second tournament taking the lead, and it will certainly be nice if I could one up my first one, which was also pretty good. I designed the Dustborn tournament, and that was a pretty big hit.
All right, so as design lead, can you take us through the rule set for Edge of Eternities and tell us what's new and what we can expect from our next 6 weeks of play with the AGL?
Sure. So the big deal with Edge of Eternities is we're forming up fellow comrades, captains, cohorts, all that good stuff, forming crews of 5, and we are journeying off to the Aglira system, where there are planets discovered and planets to be discovered. At the start of the league, we'll all be placed on a map with 5 discovered planets, which will be the last 5 standard sets. That's Final Fantasy, Dragonstorm, Aether Foundations, and Dustborn. Those will all be available as punishment packs. Sorry, comeback packs in the first week.
It's all branding, isn't it?
As well as Edge of Eternities packs. Although Edge of Eternities packs, you will only have a maximum of 5. You can only take an Edge of Eternities pack every odd loss. You don't have to take it then. You essentially unlock it and add it to reserve. But you couldn't take an Edge of Eternities pack first and then take another one second because you wouldn't have one in your reserve to take. Members of your spacecraft win games, you will be able to move your spacecraft around the map and explore new territory. And in that unexplored territory are, I believe the number's 35. 35 additional planets, each one linked to a standard legal set. Whenever a planet is discovered, it will be available to take as a comeback pack in the following week. The catch to that is each planet, including the starting 5, have a limited amount of comeback packs. And once those resources have been used up, the planet will collapse at the end of the week, and you can no longer take comeback packs from that set.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing so far, it's kind of like we've taken some of the core ideas from Plane Chase, some of the core ideas from March of Machines, kind of jammed them together. We have this sort of vast multiverse that we're exploring. For those who are unfamiliar with or maybe intimidated by a map mechanic in their Magic tournament, can you tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts, the gritty little details of area movement in this world that the LC's created, with Steve's implementation, we should say. Big footnote there.
Yeah. So what the map is going to look like? It's going to be a hex grid. Radius, I think, will be around 40. We haven't, locked in the number just yet, but I think with a radius of 40, that puts us right about at how many tiles we want. All ships are going to start in a small area near the center, which will contain the 5 starting planets as well. And then every time you win a match, you will have the option to move your ships 3 units on the grid. You can only move to an adjacent hex next to yours. And every time you move into an undiscovered hex, you discover that square, or discover that hex. So if there's a planet in it, you will discover that planet. Most of the time there's going to be nothing, but it will then be a discovered hex that will have no chance of having a planet in it.
Okay, so What if I want to move in an arc, right? So we're talking about movements of 3 just going straight out in a row. Can I? What if I want to move 1 space or 2 spaces? Can I do that? Or if I want to, like, let's say go outward 1 and then right 1 and then right another one. Can I move the spaceship in arcs if I want to?
Yeah. So, I don't want to speak for Steve here, but I believe the way we're going to implement this is to just have the Discord bot will message you, and it will just give you 3 options for movement labeled, movement 1, movement 2, movement 3, and you just select a direction to go in each of those movements. So if you want to go, up or right on your first movement, and then you want to go up or left on your other 2, you can definitely do that.
Gotcha. Okay, so like it's like this, the spaceship is like aiming towards one of the flat edges of the hex, and you can either go straight, left, or right on each movement.
Yeah, well, you'll have 6 options per movement because each hex is bordered by 6 others. But yeah, you can definitely mix and match. You could theoretically end up on the same cell you started with if you really wanted to, although I wouldn't recommend that strategy.
Okay, so we're exploring the multiverse. What's in it for me if I discover some uncharted system? Let's say that my favorite meme, let's say that I land on Theros Beyond Death planet, and all the comeback packs are from that delicious Theros Beyond Death set that I covet. What happens? What happens with that moment of discovery, and what happens afterwards to the tournament?
Yeah. So when you discover a planet, say, you win a match, you move your spaceship 3 units, and you discover the planet that's linked to Theros Beyond Death. So immediately what will happen is you and your crew will get a random rare from Theros Beyond Death. Now this can be any rare that was in the boosters, and you'll all receive the same rare, and that will immediately be added to your pool upon you discovering that planet. The other thing that will happen immediately, which is purely cosmetic and will have no impact on the tournament, is you can name the planet. I don't think we have the naming conventions quite worked out. We may require it to have the letters THB in it somewhere. So, we don't get everyone calling their planets like Fart Butt or whatever.
Right.
We want to be a little nice to the inhabitants of these planets.
So there's an individual good for teams being the first to discover planets, and I understand they move only on wins, right? As opposed to losses.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so you move on a win, and you get the rare bonus, which is compelling enough reason to be stalwart space explorers. But as I understand it, there's some sort of collective or communal good as well that happens when you unlock new star systems for the rest of the people in the tournament, even the people who are on your little 5-person team.
Yeah, so obviously it's the best if your team unlocks the planet because you will receive the rare, but for everyone, the set that's linked to that planet will become available to take as comeback pack starting the following week. So if it's the middle of week 2 and you discover the Theros Beyond Death planet, it will become available as a comeback pack starting in week 3.
Okay, so there's a kind of delay on when these packs become available. And I guess that represents this new system being open to trade relations or something like this, if you want to theme it like that.
Yeah, thematically, we had to take some time to establish relations with the inhabitants and set up our mining colonies. Mechanically, we don't want to introduce any sort of match timing element. So, if a pack were to become unlocked later in the week and you finish your games, you might not have access to it. So having it roll over at the end of the week just makes it available to everyone, on the same footing.
So in week number 1, we're just looking at we're looking at Edge of Eternities and the last 5 sets. Those are the ones that can be mined. And how likely is it that all 5 of those planets get mined out in week 1? And then we're sort of forced to rely on M19, M20, and M21. Because I think all the placement of the planets are random out there in space, right? So
yeah,
the planets that you open will be just a mix, a hodgepodge of whatever Standard has produced since Arena's been legal.
Yeah. So the rules, we're going to have, one comeback pack on every planet, approximately for every 8 players in the tournament. So, with Edge of Eternity's numbers coming in close to Final Fantasy, you could expect about 25 comeback packs per planet.
Oh, wow.
What that will end up meaning is the planets are probably going to get mined pretty quickly. There is, of course, People's Edge of Eternity's reserves, which will bring those numbers down.
Right.
Most people will probably want to take their 5 Edge of Eternity's packs over the course of the tournament. But I would say it's pretty likely, as is, that all 5 of the starting planets will be mined out in the first week. If there were one I would say would survive, it would be Foundations, but even then, with only 25 packs, and if we start with a 200-player tournament, I think it's pretty likely that you won't see those packs around in week 2.
So I'm seeing a real strategic tension already between the decision of when to tap into your 5 Edge of Eternity's packs that you're guaranteed, and how quickly you should start mining planets that become available, and when to hit the brakes and hold back from mining a planet in the hopes that a better planet is discovered in the following week. This seems like a kind of sweet spot with regard to strategizing. And it doesn't seem like, again, another League mechanic where there doesn't seem on the face of it to be an absolute right answer straight out of the gate, which to me indicates that this is a deep mechanic. And it'll be interesting to see it unfold.
And, for those who were here for March Machines, it's definitely kind of taken some inspiration from that League design. And again, kind of with the March Machines design, it maybe wasn't obvious to players if they should just take their 5 March Machines packs first, or if they want to jump on those popular sets like War of the Spark or Strixhaven before, those planets ended up collapsing. I wasn't here for the tournament either. I feel like I remember a lot of people saying that just taking the March Machines packs first was correct, but at the time it may not have been as obvious what the correct strategy was.
Yeah, I remember that it was more like the market mechanic from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, in that all of the sets were open from the very beginning for you to bid on or purchase, or however you want to conceptualize it. So I think the reason I sort of compared this to Plane Chase is that there's a sort of random mechanic as to, it's like a mass Plane Chase in that there's lots of random comeback packs that are opening every week, and it's just a matter of, we don't really control when they're available. So yeah, it's an interesting new take on some old mechanics. So I think that's gonna scratch an itch for adventure that a lot of people have, and the chaos is there. It's baked right in, but people who want to get their Edge of Eternity's tournament will be able to start with 6 packs and then add 5 more, and then, that's, if they want to play basically mono Edge of Eternities, that would also be a possible path. A little less exciting, maybe even suboptimal. For example, if we open up the MH3 planet or something like that. Yeah. All right, so tell us about the group. So you mentioned something about spaceships and teams, and how do I find out who I'm playing with? Who's going to get stuck in that ship with me?
So I guess before I jump into the mechanic, I'll give a shout out to Adam E., who was kind of the originator of this mechanic. He was the one who originally pitched kind of a light team mechanic.
Yeah.
So definitely want to recognize him for giving us that idea.
Cheers, Adam.
So the way this spacecraft is going to work, at the start of the tournament, I think we'll probably roll it out with pools the same way we rolled the pools for TDM by clan. We'll likely roll them by spacecraft crew, just so everyone can kind of know who they're with right from the get-go. But the crews are going to consist of 5 players, maybe plus or minus 1, given the tournament may not be an exact multiple 5. But what we're looking at is we're going to have 1 captain. The captains are the 2025 Player of the Year contenders, and then any extra captains will roll down to the top 3, the players with the top 3 best leagues. Those are going to be your captains. Next up is the chief officer, which is going to be the players who have the highest win rate that aren't captains. So if you don't get chosen to be a captain, but you still got a pretty high win rate, you're likely going to end up as a chief officer. Your third slot in the crew is a lieutenant, which is going to be the players who have been with the league the longest and are not a captain or a chief officer. And then the remaining members are going to be your rookies, the ensigns. So those are going to be the new players to as fraternities, and the crewmen, which is just going to be everyone else. So your team will have some combination of new players and everyone else who wasn't selected as one of the first three as your last two players.
Okay, so how does this affect gameplay, if at all?
As far as gameplay goes, with team leagues in the past, such as Neo Partners or the Chaos 3 League, your record was directly tied to your teammates' record, where your performance was summed up with your teammates to kind of give you an overall record. That's not the case here. So at the end of the day, this is still an individual league. Your individual record is going to be what's going to determine your placing in the tournament. So aside from space discovery, this shouldn't impact your tournament. As mentioned earlier, your crew will move the spaceship in tandem. So whenever you win a game, you'll move your spaceship. Whenever one of your teammates wins a game, they'll move your spaceship. Likely there should be some strategy discussion there among your teams about where you want to go. And of course, if you discover a planet, your team will reap the benefits of all getting that, rare discovered from that set.
What if you discover more than one planet per exploration cycle? Let's say, for example, I get lucky and I drive my spaceship right through 3 populated systems. Does my team automatically get 3 rares from 3 different sets?
Yeah, I would say you should go buy a Powerball ticket. But yeah, if you are lucky enough to manage to hit 3 rares on one move, you and your team will all get 3 rares. If that happens, like I said, go play the lottery. You're lucky enough that you should win that too.
Well, there is some reward and prizing at the end of the tournament, even though it's still at the end of the day an individual tournament. I think there is still a prize for, what is it, the team that discovers the most systems, is it?
Yeah, that's right. So at the end of the league, the 5 members that have discovered the most planets, they'll get a special Cosmetic Discord badge, and they'll receive free entries into our next league, which will be the Spider-Man set. So there's definitely some incentive to work with your team, strategize your space exploration and try and optimize your movement to find as many planets as possible.
Right. And so because you're sort of keying off of each other's wins for in-tournament advantages, I guess there's good reason to help each other deck build and to strategize about the format and about which comeback packs to harvest from which planets, all that stuff. But it is important, I suppose, to point out to our players that it is not allowed to help each other with actual gameplay, right? That'll still be prohibited if I understand correctly.
Yeah, that's right. So, you should not be advising your teammates, your crewmates during a match. That's reserved for strictly team leagues, which this is not. But like you mentioned, given that your success at discovering the map does directly depend on your teammates as well. I think we do expect a lot of teams to strategize, help each other with deck building, definitely discussion about what packs to take. While that's not required, I think it is kind of a selling point for this tournament that you get to form a little mini crew, have some strategy discussions, get to know them a little better.
Yeah, so in a way, I see again, this is like a hybridization of 2 different ideas, right? It's kind of like the team trios or the partner leagues, except that you don't share gameplay pressure and you don't drag each other's records down as directly as in those tournaments. And then it's slightly smaller than the factions, which kind of give you that rah-rah go team feeling with a little bit of a side pot on the go. So it's sort of nestled right in the sweet spot between the team leagues and the faction leagues. It's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B again, it seems.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting proposal because it's not as integral to your tournament, but it is still going to be something I feel like people will want to engage with, and there is some incentive in the rule set to interact with your team, make sure they're performing as best they can. So I'm definitely excited for it, and I hope it will be enjoyed by my crewmates and the majority of the crewmates in the tournament as well.
Okay, Jack. Well, let's. Are there any more new rules to discuss? If not, I have some other questions for you.
I think the only thing we haven't touched on is the Mega Draft format.
Oh yes, of course.
So for this format, it's Mega Draft or Mega Drafts. Likely, we're going to have two of them with the top 16 again. It's going to be one pack of Edge of Eternity, and then followed by the 4 packs that were the most taken by the players in said Mega Draft. And then the last pack will be, one more pack of Edge of Eternities. So what will likely happen is we're actually going to see 2 different Mega Draft formats for our 2 Mega Drafts, because it's highly unlikely that the 8 players in one Mega Draft took the same packs in the same frequency and order as the players in the second Mega Draft.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's amazing. So there's something to look forward to if you manage to top 16 this tournament, which is already shaping up to be fairly competitive, since we haven't done the Reddit push or the server internal at all push for signups, and we're already sitting at above 80 players. It's likely that this is going to, I think, at least double before registration cutoff. So making top 16 will mean that you're at least the top 10%, if not a lower percent, by the end of it all. So if you make it that far to enjoy that unique Mega Draft format, kudos to you. All right, so that covers the end of the new rule breakdown. Jack, can you take us behind the scenes and tell us about how this all got started, and what was the original pitch, and what were the ideas that got left on the cutting room floor or that are being saved for other leagues ahead?
Sure. So, my initial pitch, I wasn't here for the March Machines tournament. That was actually, I believe it was 1 or 2 leagues before I joined.
But the rumors were still thick on the server, right? The legend carried over.
Yeah, I know, right? But I've heard such good things about it. So my idea kind of going into Edge of Eternities was to design something similar in nature to that March Machines tournament, because it was widely well received. Jesus, can't speak. It was well received, and it's been 2 years now since that tournament. So I felt like it's kind of enough time there. 2023, yeah.
Oh my god.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it seems like yesterday.
So my goal kind of going into this was to have a set, or have a league design kind of similar in nature to the March of Machines league. And it's also been a while since we've had a league with, every pack available. The last one was our Thunder Junction League last year, which, had the market system with all the packs available. Mm-hmm. So my initial pitch was, basically to have the planetary system like we talked about, with the planets, blowing up when you extract all the resources. So that concept pretty much carried through the whole tournament of having, these sets with limited resources, and once the amount of comeback packs on the planet is exhausted, it's no longer available. So that concept carried through pretty much the whole way. I think, all the LC were on board with it, and kind of wanted to have a spiritual successor to the March of Machines tournament. A little later in development, the map idea kind of started to get floated around as a way to tie it in. I know Adam's been pushing for a map for a while, and you've been big on the map idea as well.
Oh yeah, I'm a vocal advocate, and I'm really happy that we finally have a functional map to go along with an AGL
Yeah.
tournament. This is a landmark event for me, and I suppose Adam too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So please tell us more.
And it's I think it is a good fit for this set, of course, because we're in space. Space is big, and big territories require maps.
Need a map where you get
Exactly.
lost.
So it fits. It definitely makes sense, and it's kind of a nice way to tie in the planets and the unlocking of the comeback packs by ships moving on a map. So in that sense, it almost feels like a strategy-based game like Civilization or something, where you're moving through that fog of war and unlocking new resources. It was a good tie-in to my initial pitch as kind of a way to limit the flow of comeback packs, because originally my plan was just to have them all available. This way, your pack restrictions are your pack choices are a little more restricted, which will kind of make it feel less like March of Machines or a Thunder Junction, where you had all those packs available, more like a Plane Chase, like you said.
Yeah, and I think that just remarking on a strategic dimension of it that just came to me, it's going to push people out in different directions. You're going to have a pretty strong incentive to go to all different corners of the map and to differentiate your path from other teams' paths. So yeah, it's everyone's going to have a distinct journey, right? No two paths to victory are going to be the same, and I do think you'd said before that there wasn't going to be a sort of time based dimension to this league, but I do see a very strong incentive in being the first team to get wins. Like if you can get your whole team on the server on Friday night and just win, oh, the joy. I do think we're going to see some people who are going to try to take advantage of that off the jump and be the first out the gate. I mean, this might be the launch day for the tournament with the most matches played. I would be surprised if it wasn't the case.
Yeah. So I think there definitely is, like, you're incentivized to play early, I think, already in the AGL,
right, yeah,
just so you can get people with less comeback packs. I think with this mechanic, like, winning early is nice because you can kind of get away from the starting rush. It's like taking off in a race early. You kind of get out of the pack. Although I don't think that's that much of a problem because, even if you're the 20th spaceship to move, you may have to go through like one or two spaces that have already been explored, but the map's big. There's going to be plenty of room for you to look around for planets, and the difference that you moving through one or two zones of explored space already, probably not going to make a huge difference, especially given the chance of discovering a planet will be so low.
It's a bit like the gold rush in the Old West, right? You don't want to be the last one to get on the wagon to go for the gold rush. But
get out there.
I take your point. The map's going to be big enough that there will always be a little spot left to look into and explore. You've assuaged my concerns, although I do think it will be very interesting to watch player behavior, because that players like to min-max. They're going to min-max the hell out of Friday night play, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so yeah, that's the story about how we got here. Was there anything that you wanted to sort of put in the recipe that there wasn't room for in the end? Anything that got cut that you were kind of winced at, and like, oh, that's too bad. I would have liked to have had that.
So, I think the one, contentious point about our tournament is the use of the individual card rewards. That being when you discover a planet, your whole team gets a rare. I know we kind of went back and forth on that a while. We had our run-in with those in MKM, where we definitely received our fair share of complaints that people were getting broken cards for not playing Magic. And we definitely took that into consideration here. What I was envisioning actually was removing the bonus sheet from our play boosters, so the bonus sheet being the stellar sites lands, and having those be rewards for discovering planets. One, because it's very thematic. You discover a planet and you get a land that has a planet on it. It makes sense. And then two, I think those lands on average are going to be less impactful than a rare, even a random rare from an older standard set. Because a lot of those lands are either two-color lands or they actually just suck. Like, so some of them are really bad. And so I felt that it was kind of a good way to keep the bonus sheet in the set while, kind of removing that variance from play boosters and use it as an individual card reward instead of a rare from the set. Unfortunately, that idea didn't gain a ton of traction, and we ended up just going with the rares, which I think it's fine. It's not a huge sticking point for me this tournament, but I think it would have been cool to have players be discovering those stellar sites cards when they found a planet.
Yeah, I think that after let's say Final Fantasy, I think there was a sort of push back towards let's just play the boosters as Wizards intended, given that as you pointed out, the bonus cards aren't that egregious. And I think that that's also the push for this, light faction or light team mechanic, is that Final Fantasy, although like a pretty wildly popular league, I think on the whole, it was kind of isolating, right? It was just you and your packs, and you're crafting them, and you're deciding all that stuff on your own. So I do think like there's a pendulum swing there that probably accounted for why things turned out the way they did. But hey, Jack, you probably will still get like those M19, rare lands. They're waiting for you out there. You might still get a land. When you land on a planet. So that
I can't wait for Discover M19 and get my Temple of Triumph.
The dream's alive. So in terms of like how to sort of mitigate that variance, like to stop teams from getting busted rares, I mean there are a couple ways that maybe we could have gone, I suppose, to change that. Like you could have had the team open individual rares instead of opening a team rare. You could have had them open individual rares, but in a way it's kind of better because you're all opening the same card and you're kind of all strategizing about how you can use it in your deck or not. Or you're lamenting as a group or you're celebrating as a group. There's no in-group fighting like, well, I got a Sphinx and well I just got this crappy bauble or whatever. Everybody gets the same. So whether your team gets boosted with a busted rare, or whether your team gets absolutely, cheated with a a land that is a common in most sets now. That seems to be kind of part of the dopamine rush of it all, and the excitement and the pathos of space exploration. Some planets are rich in resources, and others not so much. So
others are there beyond that.
That's part of the story.
And I think at the end of the day, too, the fact that the planets, like, there's 35 planets and, like, the 4,000 tiles of space, like, while we are giving away these individual card rewards, but they're going to happen so infrequently that I don't imagine it being a problem,
Famous last words. Well, you'll have to wait and see. The tournament is, we got one more week of registration, I believe, and then registration closes and we'll be able to see how many players we have and therefore how many tiles on the grid that we end up using. That's it for me, Jack, unless there's any final thoughts on the Edge of Eternity's League.
I guess I'll close off with mentioning our Aether Drift and Final Fantasy team field. So in Aether Drift we had the feature races, and in Final Fantasy we're finishing up our Blitzball tournament. I think with the popularity of those, that spacecraft crews can probably expect something similar out of this league. We're not quite sure how that's going to look yet, but I think it will be kind of a nice idea to have some, extra tournament side event similar to the Blitzball match, those races that teams can compete in as spacecraft crew. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I think that'll be popular with players, and it's going to help Richard get those feature match slots filled too. So everybody wins. Jack, thanks for first of all pushing the ideas forward to get this league launched, for all your work throughout, and for joining me here today on Leagues Ahead to discuss it all.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, bye, Jack. Thanks again.
Bye.